What's up, everyone? I am Andy Coronado, and tonight I'm joined by my gang, Elias Grigoriadis and Hadi Rafael. How we doing, boys?
We're fine. We're fine. Excited.
Oh,
Excited, man. Has it hit you
like the
yet?
first day. It's the first. Like the knot in your stomach before like the first day of school or something like that. Like, we're 4 days away, man.
It's
Dude,
crazy.
We're
first day
four
of
days away. We've
school.
been waiting. We've been waiting for like a decade at this point. We're 4 years away.
Man, first day of school it seems so freaking long ago that I can't understand the feeling. But I
I
can
forgot how
tell
old
you,
you guys
like,
are.
Age yourself. Age yourself by yourself, Hadi.
Yeah, I forgot how old you both are.
no,
Jesus.
but like first day of
Hey, listen.
whatever exciting event is gonna
Yeah.
happen. Yeah, exactly. I've been in the mood, I think, since maybe Wednesday or Thursday, where it all started to be real. It's really started to be real. Like everything, like Canada, Ireland. The few days before, I was at the Supra practice on Thursday, and I saw some people, and we talked soccer, and of course we started talking about the World Cup. So like, yeah, super excited, super pumped, can't wait.
It's inevitable. Like everybody, it seems like the word on the street, literally, even if it's not going to happen in Montreal, it seems like everyone is talking about it. Those that don't really follow. Hey, Robbie, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for all of us, and Felix also joining us tonight. Hello,
Hey, friend.
Felix. So it's super. Like I said, it just feels like everyone is talking about it. It's the it thing that's going on. Heidi, we I was very lucky. All three of us went to the Canada versus Ireland game in the preseason, and we'll talk about it. But I just kind of want to talk about kind of the experience, right? Because Heidi, we were sitting next to each other, and I told you, it hasn't hit me. I've been to Stade Saputo a bunch of times, and but this time I was watching a team that's about to go to World Cup. Is their last game before they go to the World Cup, and it just hasn't hit me. Like I was like, whoa, this is really not just another friendly game. This is they're getting ready for the World Cup. Literally, every injury counts. Every bad move is a million question marks for the upcoming World Cup because we know how the World Cup has to be. Everything has to be executed to perfection for them to have any chance to pass on to the next stages, right? Did you guys feel that going into Stats Saputo? Did you guys maybe from beginning to end did it hit you that you were watching a World Cup team getting ready for the World Cup?
It hit
Oh
me
yeah.
more when I went to Toronto to watch Canada versus Iceland. Because there I got to go to the stadium that's actually going to host the World Cup, and I talked about
Oh man,
how
stop
displeased
it,
I
Oh, this
man.
was.
is always Toronto,
I
man.
can't. I
I talked about how
can't.
displeased I was with the actual stadium, but that's also the first time where it made I realized like, oh my god, there's
Yeah.
gonna be a World Cup in Canada. So that was my first time of like actually realizing it. Much to my chagrin, like I said on the pod after that game, the stadium sucked.
Hmm.
And it's gonna be infinitely worse when there's 20,000 extra people. Um, especially with the Bosnians. We're gonna get into that in a little bit, but like it's gonna be a madhouse, and it's not gonna be. They're not equipped for it. Just straight up, they're just not built for it, and so it's in God's hands now at this point, right? You gotta like everyone's made their bed. Now you have to lie in it.
But just
Uh,
the fan craziness was also how do we were right next to the Voyageurs. Um, what'd you think of that? The fans vibe because you kept exclaiming something throughout the game about the fans vibe and everything. What'd you think? What was your take on that?
you could feel the tension in Saputo Stadium. You could literally feel it. You could literally feel that you were about to witness something in the next few days, next few weeks, because I don't know, maybe it was me that was really so pumped, but like I looked at everyone, next to us, Andy, and everybody seemed pumped. You had like a ton of photographers and videographers that were on the field. You had some people that clearly it was the first time at Stat Saputo
Yeah.
that were there. Like and it was amazing. Yes, you had the Voyageurs that were singing, but also you had the opponents with Ireland that were very very loud. But it was great. It was great. You can feel the atmosphere. And you know what? I will call this for Canada. I think it's not the World Cup, but it's like the Cup of War because they're going to war in a way, because there's a lot to do for that Canadian team.
But that's a good point that you bring up, because you say like it's a war and you have to get ready for it. You're right. But to me, it felt like, and this is my personal opinion. You're absolutely right that the vibe was there. Everybody is clearly excited about what's about to happen. But it felt like there was something missing from the fans. It almost felt like they weren't completely capturing what they were watching. And that's what I
Mm.
felt, just based on how quiet it was at times. How it just felt quiet. Like they were almost just going to another game. And to me, that's when you're trying to get this team a send off before the big tournament. You kind of want to make them feel like these fans, we're about to get some crazy stadiums now, just based on what we've seen at Stade Saputo. I felt like there was a little bit of that missing. Like you said, the Voyageurs were great. I mean, you could hear them even too, but the Irish fans,
Yeah,
they
for
were
sure.
loud, and you could hear them from the other side of Stade Saputo.
No, don't forget, Andy. You have that political climate also in Quebec, between Canada and Quebec. And unfortunately, I don't want to go into this,
Let's
but
get
we
into
can
it.
see we can see it on X. We can see it on all social media platforms. A lot of people from here, saying, "Ah, I will never cheer for Canada." You have that thing. You're in Quebec
Yes,
here. You're
yes.
not. Unfortunately, you have that thing between that political climate that's a bit tough. But witnessing the O Canada, it was maybe the first time in Sat Saputo where the O Canada was that loud. I've never experienced the O Canada that loud at Sat Saputo or in Quebec, and I thought that it gave me goosebumps, and gave me goosebumps being there. And when I listened to it right after, it gave me even more goosebumps because I was like, okay, it was that loud. And you know what? Yeah, I think, yes, I get it that it could have been a lot louder. Completely agree with you, Andy. But knowing everything that's happening here in Canada, for me, it was loud enough for that game.
Hmm. Elias, what was your take on the vibes of the fan? How loud it felt? Did you feel it like if they were?
Honestly, first 15, 20 minutes of the game, all I could think of was this should have been the French national team. It should have been the French team, right? I don't want to bring up
Uh,
issues from a year ago, but like this should have been France here, right? And it for a bit it genuinely took me out of the game because I was like, yo, this is literally a once in a lifetime opportunity.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
And the city squandered it, right? But after that, I was very abruptly reminded of the difference between Quebecois soccer culture and the rest of Canada's soccer culture. Not just from a mentality and a language perspective, but also from a chance and an intensity perspective. Because we've all been to games. Everyone who watches this show has been to CF Montreal games. The collectif and the 1642 are better than the Voyageurs
100%.
yeah,
by
100%.
a million miles.
Mhm.
So like I'm listening to these chants. I'm listening to and again, this I'm not taking away from the Voyageurs, but I'm like, guys, give me something, man. Give me anything. And they were loud and doesn't take away from the passion and the energy that they bring. Because that at the end of the day is what's most important. But you're about to go, like Hadi said, you're going toe to toe with all these other supporters groups from around the world that do this every single week.
Yeah,
And they're basically assembling their all-stars of supporters from all the clubs in their country, and they're going, for the most part, and they're going to support their country. And I'm scared of Canada in the 3 home games getting outshone a little bit, especially with
mm,
Bosnia, especially with Switzerland, where I feel like they maybe not get showed up, but like I don't know if you guys saw the Bosnia game in St. Louis.
yeah. I'm afraid about the Bosnia
Crazy.
game, but not the Switzerland game, because I don't think a lot of Swiss will make the travel, will make the whole trip. As I've read about 500 will be just coming to the US and Canada. So I don't think they'll have a lot of support here in Canada, maybe in the US, but not in Canada. So I'm not really afraid of that. Now the Bosnian, yeah, it's
The Bosnians are going
very,
to take over Toronto, by the way.
yeah, Yeah, for sure.
100%.
100%.
Like,
100%.
first of all, I was floored to find out that St. Louis, Missouri, of all the places
Yeah.
in the world,
Same.
is the
Same.
biggest diaspora city for Bosnians in
Yeah.
the world. There's
Hey.
70,000 Bosnians that live in St. Louis.
You
I
guys
was
want to know?
completely
You guys
floored.
want to know
When
what
I saw
happens
that
in
first
Missouri?
goal, I saw it. What happens in Missouri stays in Missouri. I saw the first goal, and I heard the crowd, and I was like, "What the fuck?" I was floored. So chapeau to the Bosnians, but they also travel incredibly well. So I'm not surprised by that at all. I was like, "Wow, that is
Yeah.
potent."
And I
think every time that we say Bosnia, I think Robbie should say, something like sorry or fuck them or something like that, because they eliminated Italy. So
no, but Robbie brings up a good point, because Elias, you
Yeah.
kind of, made my point. You said it in a better way. Robbie said we don't have the European soccer culture, and maybe that's what I'm expecting. Also, because I've seen a lot of South American games, and when they're sending off their team to the World Cup in a meaningless friendly, it could be a tie, it could be an ass whooping of 4-0. I don't know, but the chance, the connection that the players feel from the country, especially their home country, heading into the tournament, knowing that it's going to be at least we got our fans. At least we have our fans that are backing us up regardless. So that's that's the only part not the only part. We'll talk about the game in a bit, but that's one of the major parts that really kind of took me out of it, like you said, Elias. But it's definitely something that hopefully improves with the tournament, and people really do wake up to the moment that and Hadi, you're going to see it firsthand, because you're going to be in the actual game, so you're going to be able to give us a comparison of what we saw at Stade Saputo and Toronto. But let's go ahead and get into the game. What do you guys say? So there were two friendlies, 2-0 win against Uzbekistan, a World Cup team, and a 1-1 at Stade Saputo against Ireland, who will not be present at the World Cup. And that's something that I actually asked Hadi in the middle of the game. I asked Hadi, are they actually going to the World Cup this team? And he said no. I was like, that changed everything for me. I said, oh, they're not going to the World Cup? Oh, this is different now. Canada should be playing with everything right now. They should be showing all their cards now. And I don't know. What was if you guys can kind of summarize your overall thoughts of both games? It's a win and a tie. Are you guys feeling confidence after these results heading into the tournament? Now, I'm not saying about winning and making it to a final, but at least feeling confidence about the first game. This Canada team's really got a chance. How do y'all start with you? How are you feeling after those two results?
I'm not going to say confident, because no, we can't be confident. But I love those two games for Canada, and how Jesse Marsch handled them. He gave minutes to everyone who was able to play, and he made sure they were all involved. That the roster altogether was involved in this journey altogether. We saw, of course, a draw and a win. And a win and a draw. But you know what? In both games, you thought that win and that draw could have been a loss, and that's what makes me worry a bit. I love the comment of Patrick here, P Dubs, that says we are getting there, and years of failure still has some people wary, especially with all the injuries. Might affect the send off. So might affect. I think he meant.
Yes.
So. Yeah, in a way, maybe the failures are making me worry a bit more. But you know what? If I look at the positive, I think the second fiddle players did really their job and made sure Canada won the first game. You saw Jaden Nelson with a very good, very very good, cameo. You saw Taniel Wasei. Yes, he missed a couple of chances, but he gave 2 assists. And you saw Osorio that scored a goal. I'm talking about the first game. I think it's great for the group. It's going to bring togetherness to this squad. At the same time, I like that Marsch was able to really analyze every player on the pitch. In the first game, gave one first half and a second half to players. So it was a game of 2 halves. And in the second game, you had that starting 11. The starting 11 that would be the same starting 11 that you will see against Bosnia, probably. And I like that. I like the way he handled it, but I'm still a bit wary.
Yeah, so we have kind of a precautious Hari, with this after the two results. We're, feeling optimistic, but still a little bit cautiously optimistic, I guess we can call it, right? Hari, how you're feeling? How about you, Elias? Are you feeling positive, optimistic, weary? What are your thoughts after the
I'm
results?
feeling
And
absolutely whelmed.
all
I,
right,
everything that like nothing about these two friendlies changed my expectations about the national team and how they're going to play in the World Cup. I didn't see anything that gave me more confidence. I didn't see anything that made me want to sink my head in my hands and go like, "Oh my God, we're cooked." I saw the same national team that I've seen since Jesse Marsh took over, for better or for worse. And we'll get into maybe some more of the specifics once we talk about the lineup and the individual players. But I right now they may as well, like, in terms of where my standing of how they'll do, they may as well not have played the friendlies because it didn't do anything for me to increase my confidence. Didn't hurt it either, but I am very much at the same level I was a month ago.
there we go. So I think, I mean, look, after I'm just taking it off of the game at Satsapura that I went to, and I'm feeling the same way Hadi is feeling. I'll tell you why. Because I feel like this team has the potential to work really well when it works. When this team works, when the pieces are rolling, you have extremely talented pieces everywhere on the field. Except maybe the defense, questionable, but beyond that, I think they're a team with a lot of potential to beat any other nation. However, the way I saw them play, and I didn't feel like Jesse March necessarily made any crazy adjustments that allowed Canada to be more of a threat against Ireland, kind of gets me a little bit concerned moving forward because you do. And I know we didn't talk about it last pod. We should have talked a little bit more about Jesse Marsh and his coaching. Let's talk about it real quick. Quick take on it. How we fit, because Jesse Marsh just signed a new contract until the next World Cup. We talked about very little last pod, and I just kind of want to finish on that before we move on to the preview of the games. How are you guys feeling about Marsh right now?
Look, I've made my position on Jesse Marsh pretty clear. I think he's done a fantastic job at rallying the group after a terrible World Cup. I think he's done a fantastic job of bringing any form of optimism back to the national team after you go an entire World Cup with 0 goals earned. And I think he's also done a fantastic job at bringing out the best in Alfonso Davies by simplifying his role. That was the best bit of actual tactical coaching he's done. That being said, I hate the 4-4-2 with a fiery red passion. I don't think Kyle Larin should be in the starting 11. And I hate, much like P-Dubs is saying, I hate the fact that we're using Jonathan David as a second striker, as a 9.5, as a what? No, he has to be leading the line. You're playing in a 4-4-2. Naturally, Jonathan David gets buttonholed into that second in that secondary striker role because you have actual target men like Promise David. But I don't like it. I think this team is not built to connect, and that's what you see on the field. And I think that's Jesse Marsh is doing. But again, right now he has the chance to adapt. And look, I mean, that's how they're going to play in the World Cup. But after this World Cup, I want to see more evolution from this team because you have too many good midfielders to be just sticking with a 4-2.
Hadi, do you think that Jesse Marsh is doing everything he can to get the best out of this lineup forget the lineup, the games that he's coaching? Do you think he's the kind of coach to lead this team to be competitive in the World Cup and potentially win it all?
Listen, I have a feeling that Jesse Marsh is building something here, and those friendlies are for him a way to build some foundations in that team. But we saw Jesse March in a tournament mode. We saw him at the Copa America. And we saw how he adapted himself from game to game, changing a few things here and there, tweaking a few things here and there to get to that fourth place. Yeah, we lost, against Uruguay. Yes, all that. But still, we were very close to make it to the final. And that's thanks to Jesse Marsh and his way of adapting. I think that right now in the friendlies, he didn't want to adapt too much because he didn't want to show his cards. I think he showed a bit of his cards because I think that I can't wait to see a tandem of the Davids up front as in the 4-4-2 the Jonathan David and Promise David together in that same scheme with David, Promise David playing up front and Jonathan Davis, circling around. I think that could be very interesting. We do have the profile of players to continue playing in that 4-4-2, but I understand what Elias is saying. We are used to see Jonathan David be the main goal scorer. But at the same time, you need that creative forward, and Jonathan David can be that creative forward. The problem is, Cal Laren is not doing anything with that creativeness that Jonathan David is bringing. So, I don't know. Honestly, I am confident that it's the good move for Canada to have Jesse Marsh. Now, am I confident for this World Cup? Again, I know I am worried. Right now, I am worried, and I will talk about it a bit later when dissecting that Ireland game.
Yeah, well, look, when just getting previews, like you mentioned, tournament mode of Jesse March, I believe that he can be a very good coach, but sometimes he gets in on himself. It seems like he gets in battles with the referees all the time. We saw it at Stade Saputo; they were holding him back again, yelling at the referees, and sometimes those kind of things, and coaches do it all the time. We've seen it with other nations, other leagues, and all that. The Mexican coach, I forgot his name, that would go crazy on the referees. But sometimes it's about the game too, right? You have to justify what you're doing on the sideline with what's going on in the game. And I feel like there's times when certain pieces that could be doing more are not doing enough, are not being played the way, or they're not matching well with the pieces around them. And is that a Jesse March necessary? Is that Jesse March's fault? I do believe so. He's the one that ultimately selects the players and selects the formation that he wants to go with. And I think right now, Canada, I don't know. Does Canada have an identity heading into a World Cup? It didn't feel like it to me as Stade Saputo. Like I'd say, that's Canada. This is Canada. This is who they are.
The identity is pace and power, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's it, right?
And high press.
It's high press. It's pace and power, right? It's physically overwhelming the team, and again, you have certain players that can break a game open, like Tejan Buchanan, like Jonathan David, that can provide you the quality needed, right? Like Steven Eustáquio. But for the large part, you look at even Alistair Johnston and Liam Miller, and you look at Alfonso Davies, and you look at Moise Mbeto before he was being removed, and these profiles are very much the Red Bull football kind of way, which is the school that Jesse Marsh comes from. So I think that's their identity. I'm fine with that being the identity, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at the Copa America, like Hadi was talking about, all those games were extremely open. You look at Uruguay, you look at Venezuela, you look at Argentina, you look at Chile. Those are very open games. Even the game against Peru was relatively open. You're going to go play against Bosnia or Qatar, they're going to build 2 walls of 4 and say, come get it. And I don't know if Canada can. That's the difference.
Let's wait and see.
There we go again.
Yeah, honestly, I can't wait, because whatever Elias is saying is true. But at the same time, I feel that we're playing so high up the pitch that, those players that are playing with a low block are going to be tempted to go and fill those spots, and they will break their defensive structure. And we saw it against Uzbekistan. I think Uzbekistan is the closest that you're going to see from Bosnia. It's the same type of play.
Bosnia just at a higher level, but yeah.
100%. But at the same time, that Uzbekistan team just, they broke, right? Because at the same time, they didn't score the opportunities that they had, and they broke because, the pressure of Canada, they weren't able to handle that pressure. So I can't wait, because I think it's a 50-50 chance. It can be very difficult, and we can just completely miss the opportunity, but at the same time, we can also break through those very big walls in those 2 games.
Hadi just went from cautiously optimistic to doubtful in a second.
I said I was worried, right? I said I was worried quite a few times. I think it's the word that I use
with good reason.
that I use the most in starting this
As the
pod,
show goes on,
I'm
it
worried.
gets more worried. But no, but it's true. I mean, that's the feeling I got, guys. When I went to that Satsupuro game, I didn't leave the game thinking this is who Canada is. But as Hadi likes to say, we'll wait and see. All right, so we had two different lineups, right, for both games, and we're going to move on from there. And I just kind of want to, we had an idea, guy. We're starting to get an idea of what the starting lineup might look like for the World Cup. Elias, if you can pull up the lineup, this was against Ireland. We had Maxime Crépeau at goalkeeping, which he did fantastic. Alistair Johnston as right back, and Luc de Fougerolles, Cornelius, Richie Lorea, Tajan Buchanan, Steven Eustachio, Ismail Kone, Liam Millar as 4-4, and the top two, Kyle Aaron and Jonathan David. So, what did you guys think of this lineup? Is this the lineup that we're going to be seeing against Bosnia and Herzegovina? How do y'all start with you?
Listen, I like this starting 11. With all the players that are available for Jesse Marsh, I really like that starting 11. And I think there's a mix of experience and youth in that squad. And I in that starting 11, you can see that. Now, I know that everybody's complaining about Laren being there, but I think for the first game in such an important competition, you need a veteran presence up front. You need someone that's been here for, I don't know how many selections right now and how many caps he has, but you need that experience up front. I don't think he will play the whole game, but I think that if he plays well, that's great. But I think around the 55th mark, 50 minutes mark, he should be substituted. But at the same time, I think it's important that he's here in the starting 11. Of course, there's always a problem. There's always some worries. I said I was worried. When you look at Derek Cornelius, he's capable of doing some great things, but he has those lack of concentrations that worry me from time to time. And that's something that's not acceptable at this level. And, I saw Cornelius when he played at Marseille. It was exactly the same thing. In the first couple of games, friends were telling me, he's pretty nice. He's pretty good. I'm like, yeah, he's pretty good, but he's not going to be a starter because you'll see at one point he's going to lack concentration. He's going to lose the ball. He's going to do something a bit stupid. And this is where he needs to improve. And right now, he's not improved on that point right now. But when you look at the players available, I like what I saw from Jesse March and that starting 11.
Elias?
Yeah, I think the big question is Alphonso Davies going to be ready for Bosnia? I don't think so. I think he'll come off the bench. And then, assuming everything goes well, he'll be able to start against Qatar. But, I've made my peace with the fact that Kyle Aaron's going to start over Promise David. I know that Hadi is talking about experience, but look, when you're playing against a team as well constructed and as physically disciplined as Bosnia, I don't care about experience. I need a freak of nature, and that is Promise David. He will win the ball. He'll make the runs in behind that Kyle Aaron can't. He will finish. He will overpower if he has to. And his technique is infinitely better than Kyle Aaron's as well. He could take people on one-on-one in a way that someone his size and with his build should not be able to. So I cannot be higher on Promise David right now, and I hope that Jesse Marsh sees the light. But again, Kyle Aaron is the most experienced national team player there, and he obviously brings a certain value. I just don't think that he has made the case to start over Promise David. Besides that, there's no really other big debates on this lineup right now. Luc de Fougerolles was fantastic against Uzbekistan, sorry.
Ooh.
And he's going to be starting. And we talked about it last week how has the highest ceiling amongst all the center backs, and he's showing it again as a modern center back with the needs of Europe. This could be a World Cup where he makes a splash and he gets a big money move away from Fulham. It very well could happen. So besides that, the lineup is not too shocking.
Guys, we're seeing a lot of comments on the comment. Thank you so much, guys, for participating. We're reading your comments. Somebody said, "Free Promise David." Hadi, is that you? Are you writing it on the chat?
No, I'm not. You would see my name. You would see my full name.
His little bot that's saying free Promise David. No, but I mean, we look. Roberto agrees with Elias. Preach, Elias. And we got
the first time ever Robbie and I have agreed with each other. So that's how you know
Robbie has
That the
turned
situation
the
is
page.
dire.
Robbie has turned the page in 2026. A few positive thoughts coming from Robbie this year. But yeah, P Dub says after we draw Bosnia, we'll see him against Qatar and the Swiss. I agree. But I don't agree that we'll draw. I think maybe we have a better chance. But let's go ahead and move on to the preview of the teams. But before we dive into all that stuff, quickly get a message for y'all. If you like The Ball is Round, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notifications so you never miss an episode. I don't care if we're annoying. It's fun stuff. It's really cool stuff that we're putting up for you guys. Like we had the interview this week, right, Hattie? We had a really, really, really fun. It was a French. I think the first in The Ball is Round's history, but really fun. Really fun.
With Mathieu Bodmer, with Jeremy Pastel, and with Abdel Aïd Kassi. Really cool. Interesting. Really, really interesting. So I would suggest you to go listen to it. It is free on our Patreon, so you just need to register.
And now on YouTube. And
it's now on YouTube. Yeah, but register for free on our Patreon already. It's pretty nice.
But yeah, just guys, our heads are going around. All three of us trying to get as much as we can out and more content. We keep giving you guys outputch and all that. But don't forget, as you've been doing, drop your thoughts in the comments. What did you make of Canada's performance? What do you guys think of the World Cup? We already see a lot of comments, so keep up the good work. And make sure to also follow us on all of our socials for daily updates, clips, and breaking takes covering everything Canada soccer, Montreal soccer, and the latest news. All right, let's go ahead and get into the preview. So, first game in Toronto, where Hattie will be on June 12th at 3 p.m. I'm not going to be able to watch it, and I'm going to be going crazy because I'm going to be at work. But against Bosnia and Herzegovina, what are some strengths and weaknesses? And give me your player to watch as well. Elias, I'll start with you.
Look, Bosnia does not shy away from, their footballing identity. I think that the game against Italy was a very good explanation where they're very opportunistic, but also incredibly difficult to break down. They haven't lost in their last 8 matches. They're unbeaten, including 5 draws in a row in their last 5 games. They're just an incredibly difficult team to beat. And that's also why when Patrick said, when this 0-0 draw happens, that I very well could see happening because let's face it, this team is incredibly difficult to break down, as we said, and I don't love Canada's ability to break down a low block. I think that that very well could be the strongest point in the Bosnian game, and the player to watch, even if he's like pushing 40, it's Edin Dzeko. He was their top scorer in the Nations League. He hasn't played in either of the friendlies. He hasn't played that much with Schalke this year, but he still got 6 goals in 11 games. So when he's on the field, he is effective. And look, Canada has already shown that they're willing to leave gaps at the back. And if you give him an inch, he'll make you pay. I think Edin Dzeko is probably one of the most underrated strikers of this generation. And the fact that, he's on the field, even if he's on the field for half an hour, he's perpetually a danger. And so I think it's going to be a big task, especially for Derek Cornelius, who I think is probably going to be man-marking him because Duc de Fougerolles will probably get eaten alive, with all due respect. That's definitely the player to watch because he's a monster.
Hattie, before I get to you, just a quick comment from Impact 796. We said we are close to 400 subs. Thank you so much, guys. And if you subscribe, continue, keep it up, keep up the good work. It helps the show. And more than anything, guys, can we give a quick round of applause for P Dubs, who says, "I contribute to your Patreon."
Thank you.
Thank
you very much, Patrick.
You're the MVP. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing that.
And now I'll just add something, Andy. For the people that are contributing, you do have some extra perks, right?
Yep.
We do have some extra perks, some things that we do that are only for our paid Patreon. So, if you are, interested, for sure, you can also contribute and get access to this exclusive content. But like most of our work, like the pod and, press conferences and everything are for free. Some interviews are there for free too. So just, you just need to register for free, but you need that extra oomph. You need to have some bragging rights to your friends. Just contribute and you'll get more. you'll get more from us.
Because these are our OG fans. These
Yeah.
are from back in the day, and they've been following us. So thank you guys so much for supporting us. It helps the show, and it keeps us going on
Yeah.
Monday nights. All right, go ahead, Hattie.
Yeah, so talking about Bosnia, honestly, they're much more than what we think. It's going to be a very tough match. Okay, the reason behind it is that it's a team that has a nice mix of veterans and youth and youngsters. We're going to see them on the world stage for the next few years. They have very young, very bright talents in that team. We can talk about the American-born. I have a hard time saying his name, but it's Bajraktarevic.
Bajraktarevic.
This. That's I'm sorry. No, it's just very
Seriously,
hard for me
man.
to say.
Like, it's such an easy
But
name.
he's so good.
Andy giving someone shit for mispronouncing last names is crazy.
You want to go there? You want to go how bad my names are?
Yeah, they're terrible.
Anyways, go on, Hattie.
So he's gonna be very, very interesting. You talked about Zeko for sure. You have Kolasinac also that was here in the last World Cup for Bosnia in 2014. Don't forget Zeko, Kolasinac. And back then, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a Canadian in that Bosnian team with Asmir Begovic, the goalkeeper that was with Bosnia back then. They do have experience, those three players, but I think the weakness of that team is that lack of experience, because on the world stage, they didn't do much yet. Yes, you have 3-4 players that have experience, but the team as a whole don't have that. When you look at Canada, we do have in 2022. We do have that experience on that stage. And that's something that's going to lack. I think that's going to be the biggest weakness for Bosnia. As for the strength, it's strength. That's exactly it. They're so physical. And you know what? Their best thing, and where they're really gods, it's set pieces. And we're really not good on set pieces and defending set pieces. So we're going to have to
What do you mean? We scored a goal.
We're going to be...
They accidentally scored a goal.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to have to be very careful during that game. I think it's going to be very important to be very strong on set pieces and be able to answer to the physicality of the Bosnian players. They play with their hearts out, and it's going to be an amazing game to watch. For the player to watch, hey, Andy.
I'm sorry.
Now, for the player to watch, yes, of course, I talked about Kolasinac, I talked about Zeko, I talked about Bajraktarevic, but for me, the one that I chose was Tariq Muharemovic. So Muharemovic is 23. He plays with Sassuolo. He's a central defender, 1.92 meters, so very, very tall, very strong in the air. He knows, of course, Ismail Kone, so he's not going to be very surprised by the level of Ismail Kone. And it's a guy that came from the Juventus youth system. He has risen very, very fast. And that's what's really interesting about him. Just for the anecdote, he was chosen by Juventus. Juventus was there for a game in Austria. He was playing in Austria, and they were there for a game to watch another player. And then they looked at his game, and they're like, no, this is the one we need. And they chose him. So they weren't targeting him, but they ended up signing him. He's a left footer. It's very hard to find a central defender that's left footer that's really, really good. And he's very, very comfortable progressing the ball under pressure because he's able to play in the midfield too. So I think this is the player to watch for Canada. They're going to be very, very tough team to break.
Absolutely. And yeah, just P-Dubs tells us, and yes, guys, those of you that are watching us on Facebook or X, if you want to support the show, help us grow as well, sign up to our YouTube. It's or watch us on YouTube as well, and go ahead and sign up, like I mentioned, because it does help the show grow. And yeah, just make sure that you comment. I did also want to mention, Hattie, because you were mentioning about the set pieces earlier. Do you remember when we were at the stadium and we saw that goal, the accidental goal, and what was our reaction? Well, because we were on the other side, right? The goal happened we were both like, we looked at each other, we're like, what?
They scored?
What? What? Everybody was confused, Hattie. Everybody in the field seemed confused. The fans were like, we jump here, right? What happened? Because it wasn't an insane celebration, right? It was a very confusing moment. But yeah, set
Yeah.
pieces are definitely going to be something that are going to have to. I don't know how your section was, Elias, but at least our
It
section
was
was
it was
super.
definitely more just like shit. Hell yeah.
Yeah. The Voyageurs were like, oh, okay. But anyways, moving on. Second game will be in Vancouver on June 18th at 6 p.m. against Qatar. Same drill. How do y'all start with you? Strength and weaknesses of Qatar and maybe a player to watch.
Okay, I know that team very, very well, and being watching very closely Asian Cups. Uh, being from Lebanon, I watch usually Asian Cups. It's a counter-attacking team, and they can be very lethal against a team like Canada. Because if Canada doesn't score early, that counter-attacking style is gonna give them hope. So we need to score very early during that game if we want to do something against Qatar. They have won silverware with the last two Asian Cups, so in 2019 and 2023. So they have experience in big tournaments. They also hosted the 2022 World Cup. That's also experience. Um, they're weak at the same time. I'm talking about experience. At the same time, it is their weakness because they're old. They're super old. And when I say super old, three of their four center backs are 35.
Hey, boy.
You have the midfielders, you have Hatem, you have Al Haidos, you have the captain, you have Boudiaf. All three of them in midfield are 35. And you have up front Edmilson, a Brazilian born, but with the Qatari team now, Afif, which everybody knows Akram Afif, and Moez Ali. All three are like 31, 29, and stuff like that. So you do have a couple of young players, but like the core of the team is very old, and this is their weakness, in my opinion. So if you play that high press, that high caliber play, where we're able to really put a lot of pressure on the defense, we should be able to break. It should be something that Canada would do very easily, in my opinion. Now, the player to watch is none other than Akram Afif. Akram Afif, he's 29. He's from Al Sadd. Very technical. And when I say very technical, it's not only dribbling and stuff like that, but he has a vision. He's able to pick a pass and to find that through ball so easily. And right now, with the new with Julian Lopetegui, who's the Spanish head coach, the way he's playing him is a 9.5. So he's able to absorb the pressure and launch those through balls for the wingers that are very, very fast. You have the two wingers, Edmilson, but also Abdul Risag. Both of them are very, very fast, and this is going to be the danger. And that's why I said we need to make sure that we score very early in that game.
Elias?
Yeah, no. Hattie spoke at length about the offensive danger this team poses, especially because Canada loves to just get caught out and really get countered quite consistently. But it's also important to remember this team bleeds goals. This Qatari team is not solid defensively. Hattie talked a bit about the experience, maybe getting a bit long in the tooth from the center back perspective, but they haven't won in their last 9 games, if I remember correctly. They've won one of their last 12. And again, this is against the one game they won was against United Arab Emirates, right? So it's not exactly like you're beating high level opposition here. This is a game, we got some predictions. We'll save the score predictions for when we're done the whole group. But guys, continue to add your thoughts for sure. But this is a team that's gonna leave gaps, right? And it's a team that'll be much less defensively disciplined than Bosnia will be. Because like Heidi said, they're trying to get on the counter every single chance they get, or they try and maybe they cheat a little bit one instance, and then you have someone that can make a run in behind, and you have the quality to exploit that, right? So I'm much more optimistic about a matchup like this, just because of the fact that this team is much more eager to get forward, whereas Bosnia is they're much more pragmatic, and they only go when they're certain that they can get something out of it, and B, the form. Bosnia is unbeaten in their last 8 and incredibly difficult to win against. Qatar is giving wins away to everybody. So I think that's the bigger difference for me. I don't necessarily have a player to watch. I mean, you talk about Afif, who's obviously the main man and the person that probably, if anyone's going to hurt Canada, it's going to be him. But you look at someone like Edmilson, who has the experience, who has not just at the national team level, but at the club level as well, who's played in big games and who's played against big opposition. That, players like that, who again are not necessarily maybe in the back end of their career. He's like 30 years old, I think. People like that, they know how to understand and navigate games like this, where that maybe I have to suffer for a little bit, and maybe I'm going to have to concede possession for 10, 15 minutes if I have to, because the second I can get there, I'm going to jump on it. I'm going to make you pay. So I don't think Qatar has enough weapons like that, but Edmilson and Afif together probably are the two focal points of this attack. There's also an attacker. His last name is Ali. I forget his first name, but I think he's injured. I don't know if he's.
Ali.
He wasn't on the roster for the friendlies, so I'm not sure where he.
He's not. He's not in the starting 11. He hasn't been in the starting 11 lately, but he is in the squad.
Okay, he's in the squad, and again, he also is definitely someone that's probably, like how you said, probably going to come off the bench to give an extra punch, because if you have Afif and Edmilson, you're not going to add a third, player of that profile. But they definitely, it's not like they have nothing, and they're not going to provide anything, and they're going to concede 20% possession and whatever. No, but this is a game that Canada should look at purely just to overwhelm, especially in the first 15, 20 minutes. You have to throw everything at them. You even grab a quick goal, maybe two, and you kind of put the game in cruise control and you see out the game. But you have to immediately take the game to them and kind of force those mistakes.
Absolutely. And then we got the third, last but not least, the third game in Vancouver on June 24th at 3 p.m. on Saint-Jean. At 3 p.m. against Switzerland. Again, Hadi, I'll start with you. Same drill, strength and weaknesses of Switzerland and a player to watch. Switzerland is a team. They're a team.
Yeah, they're a very, very good team. And you know what? They have never gone further than the quarterfinals in the World Cup. But you know what? They were pretty close of causing a very big upset in the last Euro. Taking England to the penalties in the quarterfinals and, losing, unfortunately, in the penalties for them. So it's a team that has experience, that knows how to play on a world stage in the biggest event on Earth. So that's going to be very hard. World-class team, they can do everything, and they have world-class players at almost every position. The biggest strength for me for Switzerland is the adaptability to new systems, because with their coach, they're able to really play different systems. So you're not really sure which systems you're gonna be against playing for Canada. So, and that's something that's very interesting, to be able to be to tweak things without changing the strength of the team, and that's, I think, very interesting. Now, the weakness, they're not very good under pressure. The defense is not very good under pressure. They have a tendency to really panic when there's a lot of pressure. I'm talking about the four defenders. And that's something that could be a big thing, and a good thing for Canada, because they do play the high press. Now, again, they have a lot of experience. They can still have that great game, but they're not very good at that. And I watched the game between Switzerland and Australia, the last friendly game, and it was exactly that. They're very, very strong. They're able to play everything. I thought that the game was going to finish 4 or 5-0, but at one point, Australia found a way to make them fear them. And this is exactly what happened. A lot of press, and they scored a goal and finished 1-1. So let's wait and see. The player to watch, in my opinion, I could name so many players. You have Xhaka, you have Vargas, you have Freuler, you have Rodriguez. I can name them all. I think they're very interesting. But the one that intrigues me the most is Johan Manzambi. I don't know if you have heard about that name. He's 20-year-old. He plays for Freiburg, and he's the main reason why Freiburg went to the final of the Europa League this year. And while still going to the final of the Europa League, Freiburg still managed to finish 7th in the Bundesliga and will be able to play in Europa Conference League next year. All thanks to that young guy, Johan Manzambi. He can play anywhere. He can play. He's a midfielder. He can play defensively. He can play offensively. He's very good on both ends. He has just one thing to, I think, change a bit: his temperament. He has a tendency to lose it sometimes and to get a red card. I can't wait to see Manzambi and Richie Larea together on the pitch. It's gonna be amazing.
He's gonna have one job. He's gonna have one job.
It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing. But at the same time, he's gonna be a thorn in the side of any opponent Switzerland is gonna play against.
You know who's my player to watch against Switzerland? David Alaba, baby. All right, so Elias,
He's Austrian.
Yeah, he's Austrian.
Oh, wrong team, Andy.
Not Swiss.
Look, this is a Swiss team that's kind of.
I can't deal with this shit.
This is a Swiss team that's in transition, right? They had their, quote unquote golden generation that was spearheaded by Granit Xhaka and Shaqiri, that took them to the knockout stages of every tournament they've been in almost, and for good reason, because they're really a chameleon. If they have to play low, they'll play low. They have to own the ball and press you and counter press, they will. If they have to set up in a mid block and kind of just play a war of attrition, they will. And when they present the opportunity, they'll jump on it. So they really are a team that can style bend and really play whatever is needed of them at a world-class level. And I think that, everyone's talking about when this group dropped, everyone's like, oh, Canada has to win the group. If Canada doesn't win the group, it's an embarrassment. And on this podcast, immediately we're like, no, Switzerland is the favorite for this group.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Look, compared to all the other groups, or the majority of the other groups, this is not a very strong group. This is a group that I expect Canada to finish at least second in, right, and compete for second place and even first place, depending on how they kick off the tournament. Because anywhere between first and third is up for grabs. I think Bosnia, Switzerland, and Canada are right now, in terms of if you mix together form and experience, are roughly around the same level. And so it's very difficult to predict who's going to finish where. But the Swiss team, for me, is the favorite for this group. They are still completely adaptable, and for me, the player to watch is Granit Xhaka. Because sometimes the obvious answer is the answer, because I thought that when he left Arsenal, his career was kind of like done. He'll go play out the rest of his career. He goes to Leverkusen. He reinvents himself. He helps them achieve
win their
insane
first
results.
Bundesliga.
Invincible Bundesliga, Europa League final, almost a treble. Embarrassing Bayern Munich, which is not easily done this decade, and then he goes to. And then he goes to Sunderland, right? This team was in League One 4 years ago. And now, like Freiburg, they're playing in Europe. They qualified for the Conference League on pure merit again. So, and he is, he is the main man. He captained this team to Europe after Sunderland had effectively become, a throwaway club in England, and kind of discarded to, they'll just be a Division 3, maybe Division 2 team forever. And he brought them back to the Premier League and to be very much contenders. And in the midfield, right, if one game the midfield is not clicking and Kone or Eustáquio have an off game, Granit Xhaka will eat you alive. And honestly, he's going to decide how this game goes. It's going to be entirely based on his will and how Canada can kind of collectively keep him out of the game, because you're not going to have one person that's individually going to keep him out of the game. There's just no player on the Canadian national team that's going to be able to nullify Granit Xhaka. It has to be done collectively, and I genuinely think that tactically speaking, that's probably the most difficult thing Jesse Marsch has to do in this group stage, is make Granit Xhaka ineffective.
Look, we'll finish this preview. This is the end of the preview, and we're going to finish it with
what about
this.
Score predictions?
Let me get to it.
Okay, sorry.
I'm the one where. So I want to know the score prediction of each game, and I want you boys to tell me how you think the group is going to finish by the end of the group stage. Okay, Hattie, I'll start with you. Score prediction of each game and how the group is going to finish.
Yeah, it's going to be so hard.
And in the comment section, please put your predictions too, guys. Those that are listening. Go ahead, Adi. Sorry.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. For me, the toughest game in the group for Canada is going to be the one against Bosnia and not the one
Yep.
against Switzerland. It's the toughest game in the group. And honestly, I'm hesitating, but I'm going to say I'm going to be on the optimistic side, and I'm going to say a 1-1 draw for that first game. The second game against Qatar, I will say a 4-1 win for Canada. And on the third game against Switzerland, that's going to be tough, but I would say a 2-1 loss against Switzerland. The reason why I think that if we're able to have a positive result against Bosnia, there's a big and Switzerland has won their first two games. I think there's a big chance that Canada can win against the Swiss, but let's wait and see what's going to happen. Now, for the positioning, I think Switzerland will be first. I think it's going to be between Canada and Bosnia as a second and third place, but I will put Canada as second and Bosnia as third and Qatar as fourth.
Okay. Elias?
So I'm feeling like a 1-1 draw against Bosnia. You know, it's tough because I want to be optimistic, but I really do think that Bosnia is just too difficult to break down. I think Canada are just going to get away with a draw. And honestly, a draw against Bosnia puts you in a fairly okay position. You know, we have Impact 796 that said 2-1 Canada for the first game. Robbie, being Robbie, says 2-0 for Bosnia, unfortunately.
We said you were optimistic now, Robbie. What happened, man? It took you like 20 minutes in the show and you became yourself again.
But I think it also shows just how variable this game is and how competitive it's going to be. That's why I'm going with a draw, because, you know, if there's one thing that I can trust both Bosnia and Canada to do, it's draw a game of soccer. So I think that's what's going to be the case. You know, I agree with. I don't think Canada's going to score 4 against Qatar. I think it's going to be like a 3-1 or a 2-0, like a solid win nonetheless. But I don't think they're going to completely blow them away. Robbie says 1-0 Qatar. Again, 1-0 Canada versus Qatar. You know, 1-0 versus Qatar is not a good result. So unless they rotate the squad, 1-0 win over Qatar is not a good result. So again,
I don't think they're going to rotate the
Robbie
second
being
game.
a positive ray of sunshine in the chat. We love it. But and I think the last game, I genuinely think Canada can win the last game.
Robbie, we love
Robbie says 2-0 for the Swiss because Robbie needs to make me miserable. And Pat says 1-1, a 1-1 draw, which is also very likely. But again, you know, this is one of those groups where 4 points might get you second place. It's very possible. And I think Canada right now, I agree with Hattie's rankings. I think it's going to be Switzerland, Canada, Bosnia, and Switzerland,
Qatar.
Bosnia,
Switzerland, Canada, Bosnia, Qatar.
There we go.
Vamos.
But I do think it's going to come down to like goal differential. Remember that group stage last World Cup where it was Korea, it was Japan, Costa Rica, Spain, and Germany, and while the game was happening, all 4 teams were both in and out of the knockout stage at the same time. I think it's going to be the case with Canada, Bosnia, and Switzerland. I think it's going to be one of those mad dashes to the end where a 90th minute goal might sink or swim any team.
I loved what you heard. I was honestly listening to a whole thing, and then my mom called me, and I lost attention. So shout out, Mom.
You're
All right, so Mom, we're in the podcast right now. Anyway, so my prediction is Canada wins. I'm going to be over optimistic. I'm going to put my mortgage on this. So against, but
I hope you don't have a mortgage. I just hope you don't have a mortgage.
My bank is listening. I was just kidding. But BNH, Bosnia and Herzegovina, I'm going to say that Canada's going to win 2-1. And Qatar, they're going to win 1-0. But against Switzerland, they're going to lose 2-0. I think Canada's going to end up at the top. And then they're going to get destroyed once they go.
Okay, man.
That's my prediction.
That's the thing about Canada this year. I don't think they're going to get destroyed by anybody.
Mortgage on it.
You could put them. They end up in a group stage and in a knockout round game against Spain or France or whatever. Like we saw them in the Copa America against Argentina. At no point were they destroyed. They were clearly second best, but like they were not embarrassed. They were not played off the pitch. Canada even had a couple chances. It just, there's levels. But
I think they'll be competitive, but I don't think that they're a team that is there yet, which is why at the
No.
beginning of the show I was talking about the coach and the coach putting the players at the best position. It just doesn't feel like this is a team that's built yet to be able to get to those stages. I think they'll get there, but
Yeah,
not this one.
I have a quick question for you guys, just very, very quick. Okay,
Make it quick.
what would be a success for Canada in that World Cup for you? Like, because
Round of
I can
16.
hear you, Andy, and you say they're not there yet, but there for what? Like what do you? Yeah, of course, they're not going to win the World Cup. Like we all are in agreement with that. But like, what do you mean they're not there yet? So what's their ceiling in your opinion?
Getting out of the group stage. That's what a successful
That's their ceiling.
No,
Yes.
that's the bare minimum, Andy.
Not
Okay,
You
no,
remember,
okay.
it's the top three that qualify.
To each their own. Okay, it's
to
his
each their
opinion.
own.
He's allowed. So for him, a success will be getting out of the group. And then even if they lose in the first round, whoever they play against. So let's say they play against, I don't know, Uzbekistan. If they lose for you, it's okay. It's a success.
Well, look, I compared to the time that Peru went to the World Cup, right?
We don't care about Peru, man.
When did Peru go to the World Cup, Andy?
2018. Look, the point
that's
is,
not bad. That's not bad.
No,
I thought you were gonna say like
2018.
1984 or something.
Yeah.
Like, all right, bro. Come on.
No.
Can I talk? All right. So when Peru went to the World Cup, they were just a bunch of players that were not necessarily talented in their club, but they played really well together. And the roof, if you want, was to get out of the group stage. But we quickly realized, and they were competitive throughout the games, but we quickly realized how difficult it is these 3 games. Because one little mistake, one bad decision, and the game's over. They were They lost 1-0 against France, who ended up being the champions that year. But it was still a loss, and it still counted, like took them out of the tournament. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of hope amongst Peruvians that said, "Hey, man, we really put up a fight against France."
Yeah.
Right? So that's why for me, for them, it's just to be competitive and get out of the group stage. Once you get there, you have such young talent and a big pool of talent for the future that you can actually hold on to that and move on to other World Cups with that idea that, like, with this generational talent, the first wave of that generational talent, we were able to make it out against these very tough teams that have a big history in soccer. And that's why, to me, that's the roof.
That's the ceiling. And you, Elias?
Here's the thing, right? For me, round of 16 is successful.
Yeah.
Round of 32 is expected. It's the bare minimum. Getting into the round of 32.
I'm not gonna take too much time. I have exactly the same opinion.
Anything after round of 16 is gravy for me. It's kind of like the Canadians in the second round of the playoffs. Anything after is bonus. I just want them to get to this point. The second if Canada wins the round of 32, everything else for me, I'm just happy to be there. Whatever happens. And again, it's depending on where they finish. They finish second, or a team is out of place. All of a sudden, instead of playing, Brazil or Argentina or Uruguay, you're playing Panama, who snuck in as a third place team. And all of a sudden, life is great, right? So it's incredibly difficult to predict what they'll do after the round of 32 should they make it. But it's not ridiculous to see if they get a lucky little run that they can't even get to the quarterfinals, right?
I completely agree with you.
There's a wall eventually they're going to hit,
For sure. I completely agree with you. I think we're exactly on the same page here. By the way, guys, it's going to be super interesting. And I think that a lot of people are forgetting they're playing at home. And home crowds are super important for World Cups. So just like that's an extra element to add to those games. So if you go through the group stage, if you're playing against a team that's a bit shaky, chances are that crowd is going to carry you through that game.
Not if it's the same crowd we saw at Stade Saputo on Friday.
But we're not playing at Stade Saputo.
No, it's actually going to be worse than Stade Saputo, because the Bosnians are going to show up and
we'll see. No, because the second game.
You're asking me to put my faith in the Toronto crowd. I'm not going to do it.
It's not Toronto. The round of 32 is in Vancouver.
I'm talking about Bosnia here.
No, but we're That's not what I'm talking about, but yeah, okay. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. That's going to be the good transition. Guys, I don't know if you guys realize, but we do have a sponsor right now on the ball this round. And you know what? A quick shout out to our partners over at Impact Essentials. If you're looking to upgrade your daily routine, this is the place to do it. Impact Essentials is a Montreal-based premium grooming brand specializing in high-end, all-natural beard care with some absolutely incredible scent profiles. We're talking coffee-infused whiskey, tobacco and cognac, and more, a lot more. It honestly turns your morning routine into a full-on ritual. And for those without beer, like Andy, don't worry. They've got a new line coming very, very soon. So make sure to follow all their social medias and stay tuned for that launch. Go show them some love at impactessentials.ca. And don't forget to use our promo code TBIR to save 15% off your order. Every purchase helps support the show, and we truly, truly, truly appreciate it. That's promo code TBIR for 15% off your next order. At the same time, I'll send also a message to anybody that wants to sponsor our show. Feel free to contact us on all social medias, and we're open to collaborations and to help you, of course, promote your product, but at the same time, of course, help me help you. So we're going to be able to work together into something, that's going to be very, very nice for both of us. So don't feel free to reach out.
And while you're at it, Hadi, just before we start the next subject, guys, I think we can show off a little bit, right? Like what you can do is do a little bit of showing off while you're talking about sponsors. This show has been growing in different platforms. We're talking about Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, X, Blue Sky, anywhere. Everywhere we are, we've been growing. We've been growing. Our reach has been growing. We talked about the Mathieu Bodner interview that we had earlier this week. This is a crowd that is in France. The Europeans are watching our stuff. So we're excited. We're hyped about how this show is growing, and we're excited to be there. And we would love for all of you guys to join us. So thank you so much to everybody. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Canada women's national team. While our men's national team, as we just talked about, is preparing for the World Cup, the U20 women Canadian national team prepares for their World Cup that will be played in Poland from September 5th to September 27th. And also our senior women national team is playing a friendly game tomorrow against Costa Rica. How important are those games, guys? Hadi, I'll start with you. How important?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. So I'll start with that. I think it's very important, of course, for the women's national team. I think it's a good time to be a Canadian soccer fan. I don't know if you guys read, but there's a launch of a formal request for proposals for the future national training camp. Future national training center that's going to be announced very soon. When I say very soon, it's the launch, and I think the decision on where it's going to be is going to be in the fall. So that's going to be very interesting. Keep in mind that Montreal raised its hand to be to have that national center here. So that's going to be an interesting and another milestone for Canadian soccer. Now, talking about the Canadian women's national team, I think we haven't talked a lot about them because we were preparing for the World Cup, and I think it's important that we do. They were second in the FIFA series back in end of April. FIFA series is like the equivalent of Nations League for the men. So they did do that in Brazil. They were able to win 2 games against Zambia and South Korea. They won it very easily. And they lost the last game against Brazil. So the hosts 1-0. And I think this is important because it brings competitiveness for that team ahead of that World Cup. Because don't forget, we talked about the U20 World Cup at the end of the year in September. But next year, it's the Women's World Cup. And we all remember what happened in 2023 with that horrific performance about the women's national team. We all remember also what happened in the Summer Olympics with that drone incident that we don't want to talk about again. So it's time to raise Canada's flag very high on the women's side, and we need to prepare for it. We need to prepare properly. So that game is going to be super important. We're going to need to establish ourselves again as a top team in CONCACAF because we're not that strong anymore. At one point, it was Canada and the US, but right now you have some very good teams that are emerging. We're talking about Panama. We're talking about Jamaica that's getting better. Of course, the US is still there. It's going to be super interesting. The CONCACAF qualifications is going to happen in November of this year. So that's going to be super interesting before the World Cup. At the same time, I can't wait. I love what Casey Stoney has been doing for that national team. I can't wait to see what's going to happen tomorrow against the Costa Rican side. That's also a team that's getting better and better. So I can't wait.
Guys, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is these are teams that are beginning to demand more and more respect, of course, but it's still teams that Canada should be able to beat comfortably. When you look at Costa Rica, when you look at Panama, again, a win against Panama qualifies you directly for the World Cup at this point. So it's not like you have to go to win the tournament, and it is a tournament for some reason, which is kind of just weird because top four automatically gets you in, and there's no real civil war after that. So I don't really get it, but we're not going to get into that. I think right now it's more just about building some good momentum, right? You're a year out now. So remember how we talked about how important it is the year before the World Cup for this men's team. We've been following it closely. Same thing for the women's, right? I don't want to see you just doing friendlies against Costa Rica or other teams that you should be beating handily. I want to see you test yourself, right? You didn't have a super impressive Olympics. You didn't have a super impressive World Cup. Far from that. But you're still, you're aspiring to be a top 10 team. You have the talent and the youth to be challenging for a top 10 spot. You have to do it, and you have to train, and you have to work, test yourself against top opposition. I want to see you play against, not just the United States because you play them once every year. Cool. I want to see you against Spain. I want to see you against France. I want to see you against England. I want to see you against the real heavy hitters that there are around the world. Brazil is the host. You have to go to Brazil and play a game. Get a feel for the country that you're going to be, participating in should you qualify. Stuff like this has to be the standard. I don't want to see them play against, teams that, they struggle to get a 2-1 win with a heavily rotated squad. Cool. I'm not interested, right? They have a pretty bad run against European opposition now. So you don't duck them. You get back up and, you answer the bell again. That's the whole point of trying to be a top team, is if you go in a bad run, you end your bad run, and then you go back and you face the teams that were beating you, and you get better. So hopefully they can stay fit for that, because it's also been an issue in the last 12 months. But now the real work begins for this World Cup.
Absolutely. And so we do have two more clubs that we cover, right? We have CF Montreal and FC Super, and we want to finish the show with that. Now, CF Montreal isn't playing any games, so there's not much going on the field, but there's a lot going on off the field, and it's very, very important to. Here in this show at The Ball Is Around, guys, we don't speculate on stuff. We don't like speculation. We don't spend too much time. Hadi does on his own time, his own podcast, Speculation Hadi, but we don't do it here at The Ball Is Around. So, but let's talk about the facts. I love you, Hadi.
We just gave predictions for the World Cup standings.
We don't speculate. We just
we don't speculate. What are you talking about?
We just spent the last 4 weeks speculating. What are you talking about?
We just talk about real stuff that's really gonna happen. All right, so
this is part 4 of the Speculation World Tour, dude. What are you doing?
But look, let's talk about it, because there are some rumors, if you want, speculations swirling around the club right now. CF Montreal, right? First topic we had Milton George and Maxime Trouman that broke a story over the weekend that, again, speculation, nothing is solidified, but that Philippe Eullaffroy is going to be the coach for CF Montreal, at least for the next season. Based on this rumor, how are you guys feeling about CF Montreal's remaining season? Right now, I think, in my opinion, there's a lot of questions still to be answered about the roster, about what's going to happen this season. But just that, if that does end up being officialized, what does it mean for CF Montreal for 2026? Hadi, I'll start with you. Or I started with you a few times. Elias, go ahead.
Look, I'm not surprised. We talked about it ad nauseum, on the show. If they don't find a coach before the World Cup break, it has to be Eullaffroy for the rest of the season, and that is the case. It's more of a confirmation of what we were all thinking, because introducing a coach now and giving the coach only 3 weeks to kind of get in, speak with the players, get everybody on the same page, and then deploy, you're just setting your rebuild back even further, and nobody benefits from it. So, and Patrick saying the quiet part out loud. Great. Now go spend the extra money on players.
Yeah.
Right. You told us what, you're down to 2 or 3 windows, right? Well, the window is going to open soon. You better come out the gate flying, because Ivan Jaime is no longer a CF Montreal player, which means you have a designated player slot to fill with an actual designated player.
It hasn't been announced officially.
No, nothing
right?
official. Speculation again. Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Elias. But officially,
officially, no. There's no thank you goodbye message from the club.
Which for
but
me,
if we're not speculating, but we're dealing in practical,
for sure.
common sense.
No, but I what I was saying is that it's very stupid from the club. Like, everybody knows that he's not here. Like, why?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What are you doing?
So go out. You better come out the gate firing, because I don't want you to get 5 games after the window has opened, and at the closed window you sneak in a player randomly at the end, like, here, we got you a DP for like the last 5 games of the season. May as well have done it in the winter then. Don't stop pulling my leg. So other than that, this is more of like a confirmation of what we've all been saying and hoping, rather than like any kind of breaking news. So it's more just like, congratulations, Philippe, you earned it. Now don't fuck it up.
Yeah, well,
in order for him
it's my same relationship. It's my same relationship with like a candidate for a political office versus an elected official. I will support a candidate, but now that you get the job, I don't support you anymore. You have to prove to me, and you are going to be held accountable. So Philippe,
but you're gonna have to give him. Yeah, but you're gonna have to give him the product. And unfortunately, if the roster stays the same, I don't see how he can do better than what he's already done. For me, we reached the ceiling with that. We reached the ceiling of what we can do with that roster, what he can do with that roster.
Absolutely.
We reached the ceiling. I don't think he can do more. You can win a couple of games at home. You can maybe have a draw away from time to time, but you're not going to be able to do much more. So, it's the time that, the CF Montreal higher management, Lucas Saputo and his team, take ownership of what's going on and give him the tools to get to be better and to get a better product on the pitch.
You know what? I'll say this. I'm really happy that Philippe Eullaffroy, once it's officialized, that he's going to be there for the rest of the season. I've said on this pod before, I believe he's the best coach for this team right now, given the circumstances, because he knows the club well. He knows how the club runs. He knows how the academy runs. He knows the Montreal culture, the Montreal fan cultures, and the Montreal media. He knows everything about Montreal. So I think he's the right guy right now. Now, why haven't any announcements been made so far? I think my opinion is because there's a big announcement coming. And that's the topic we're going to tackle on now. And that's the Stade Olympique. If you guys can roll your eyes, you guys can be...
No. I'm not rolling my eyes. It's just, I'm not rolling my eyes at you. I'm rolling my eyes on...
Would you say Elias?
No, I'm rolling my eyes on hope of having something better, because unfortunately, I just can't anymore hope for that team anymore. Like, I don't think they're gonna go away. I don't think they're gonna go to a different city and relocate. I don't believe that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that this management, this team, this ownership want to bring Montreal to the next level. I don't really think so. I think they're okay having expectations of barely making the playoffs for the next 10 years.
So let's put a little bit of context here, okay? What we're talking about. So the next topic we're going to talk about, if you guys haven't heard, the tweets out, there's been Jeremy Filosa, there's been Maxime Truman, Alexander Pratt that have come out with articles saying how The Quebec government right now is debating whether they should invest billions of dollars, millions of dollars in the renovation of the interior of Stade Olympique. The team, as well as the commissioner of the MLS, has gone on record saying if this doesn't happen, this is a risk for the team. So I never we in this show, as long as I've been on this show, I've never spoken about déménagement, about moving and all that. And I'm not gonna talk about it today either. But I will say that there's signs that say that this could be a very big problem for the team. And I don't know if it's gonna be moving. I don't know if it's gonna be all of a sudden. I don't know what's gonna happen with it, but there's a lot more questions that start to be raised more than answered if this project doesn't go through. It's going to be very difficult for the next few years. So, with that said, again, we're going to speculate here. I think that the tide has turned here in Montreal as far as how they're viewing soccer. And when I say they, I mean the politicians, the decision makers are starting to see now. Hadi, going to what you say, that I want to hope that there's better investment in this team and maybe better performance and better players, whatever. I think, like I said, there's no announcements to be made until that big one happens, because that will justify everything. If once that official announcement of the stadium is made, what they've decided to do, CF Montreal, I believe, will move on to announcing signings, renewals, contract buyouts, because we have that security for the future. While if it goes the other way, they'll say, well, it's not worth investing in anything because we're not going to be here for long. So that's what the way I see it. Elias, what's your take on the stadium saga, if you want?
For lack of a better term, this pisses me off. This is genuinely a whole lot of nothing. This is people that don't want to pay money fighting against other people that don't want to pay money. And it's clever from the club to bring in Don Garber because it adds that extra bit of pressure, but it doesn't really change anything because do you think the provincial government cares whether or not Don Garber is invested in this?
No,
I think it's more Don Garber and the club sent a message to the provincial government, but Don Garber also sent the message to CF Montreal saying, "I went to bat for you." We're an hour and a half in. Don't fuck me on this. I put my neck on the line for you, for a club that is not well run, for a club that does not invest, for a club that does not bring in viewership or international eyes or anything like that. Do not fuck me on this. So if I do all this for you, you better pay up, you better show up, and you better do everything I ask you to do now. Because right now, if this works and the league's stamp of approval helps get this funding over the line, and so Olympic Stadium turns into a somewhat soccer specific stadium and gets the renovation it needed, then the club owes a massive debt to the league. And this is basically Don Garber saying, you owe me now, build an actual club. Put stars on the field, bring me more money, bring me more revenue, bring me more eyes. Remember, right? Before NYCFC or Miami, like Messi was playing in front of 15,000 people in a temporary stadium in Miami, right? And then, Messi came and then they built the stadium, or the stadium was being built. But Messi it's not that, they moved to the stadium and then they brought in Messi. That's not the case, right? New York City, they brought in a bunch of people. They're investing. They've been investing since they got here. And now they have the stadium that they need. So it's not like I'm going to start making investments once I'm sure that Olympic Stadium is going to be valid and useful and everything is going to go my way. No. You have to, it cuts both ways. And so the club, kind of twirling their thumbs or sitting on their hands and not really doing anything until they get any kind of assurances, that's not good either. You have to show that you are willing to be as ambitious as you claim to be. And right now they're not.
I think I agree with you 100%, Elias. But I think what's important about the announcement is this timing of the announcement of Don Garber. Don't forget that now the politicians are going on a summer break, right? Yep. So you have the last assembly that's going to be this week. So if the decision is not taken this week, then we're going to have to wait until September for an actual decision. and CF Montreal needs to plan things. They need at least some sort of timing of
Promise.
whatever is going to happen.
Promises.
Not only promises, but timing. Also, they need more than just promise. They need to know, okay, you're going to have the stadium in 2029, because they need to plan whatever is going to happen. And Gabriel Charvet said it in the Rose's press conference at Saputo, saying we need more. We need information. We need to know, are you going to do it? 1, 2, when are you going to do it? What are you like? How can we prepare? Because we need to prepare the future on the short term of CF Montreal, because next year we have the mini season, and that's going to be during the winter. They need to prepare. And then the year after, it's the winter schedule. So at the same time, like we're already in June. There's only 10 months, a bit less, because you have the training camp. There's like 8 months left until the training camp, and they need to take decisions. So at that point, they're going to have, I think the timing was very interesting, and they're putting pressure on the Quebec government to give answers right now. If they don't want to do it, just let us know so we know what we're going to do.
Yeah. And I don't think it's just from CF Montreal. I think it's also coming from Canada Soccer because of the Canadian National Center. They're like, I think once the decision is made,
that's a bit different.
I'm just going to say this. I think once the decision is made, it's going to be a domino effect of stuff. Of a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure.
So okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the last subject of the pod. We had a game this weekend, right? There was the FC Super du Québec that played their home game in Quebec City, where they faced Pacific FC in the province capital city. It was a 1-1 draw. I always ask the same question, guys, when it's a 1-1 draw. Did it feel like a win, or did it feel like a loss, or did it feel like a draw? To me, that game felt a little bit like a loss. Now let's go ahead and look at the lineup before we get into it. At goalie, we had, help me say this name, guys. You guys make fun of how you say it. Gerges. All right. So then we had Charles Auguste, Kishan Ferdinand, Mathis Chrétien, Thomas Leboeuf, I always mess up, Sissoko. Then there was Caboret, Emla, David Chouanière, Sean Rea, and Loic Quemi at the top. All right, so what were your thoughts? Again, we mentioned it, a 1-1 draw. What were your thoughts of the overall of the game? Heidi, I'll start with you.
Very, 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 very boring first half. Like, very boring. I'm not sure why, but it felt to me like the team was playing their first game ever. There weren't any connections between the players. It felt very disorganized. It's like they were playing the first time together on the pitch. I really didn't like that first half. And then they were a lot better in the second half after the tactical switch, with the sub of bringing in Deland as a third center back, and having Charles Auguste play a bit more in the midfield. I like the fact that he put him in the midfield. I know he was still a right back, but in possession, he was in the midfield, and I really like that. And of course, we were a bit more dangerous when Abzi and Riyad Bey came in at the 72nd minute. And that's where we saw a team again. And that's my general thoughts. For me, I just don't get what Nick Razaghi did with that first that starting lineup, because they were clearly not prepared to play a game together, in my opinion.
And maybe tell us your top performer and who maybe didn't quite meet the expectations. And
honestly, it's I don't want to be redundant, but for me, there's no other top performer than Sean Rea. Like I don't see who we can say than Sean Rea, because the rest were, some were good, some were okay, but the top, there's nobody else than Sean Rea. And if you want to say, just give a bit of flowers to someone, I would give it to David Chouanière. I think it's his best game this season. Yeah. He didn't have a very good first game, beginning of the season. I think it was his best game this season, and especially in the second half, I think he was very good. He gave the assist on Sean Rea's goal. That's for the top performance. who didn't quite meet expectations. I'm pretty sure, Andy, you're going to be very happy for me. You guys know how much I love Sissoko and how big of a fan I am. But I feel that we haven't seen the player that I love yet with the Supra. He's trying too many things that are out of his depth, in my opinion. He should focus on being the anchor man. This is where he excels. It's someone that wins the ball and gives a very simple pass. This is what he should do. He doesn't need to score. He doesn't need to go up front. Just win the ball, and that's it. That's all I ask from you because you're so good at this. And if we want to say it, he has to be a bit more Sampietesque. Sampietesque. Sorry. He needs to be that player. This is how he's going to be great for this team. He needs to be that anchor man.
Elias, give us your thoughts on the game, your top and your flop of the game.
Look, it felt like a draw. It didn't feel like a win. It didn't feel like a loss. It felt, and Chan kind of said it too. It felt like a draw. It felt like a whole lot of nothing for the first half. The second half, that goal was demoralizing because it was so avoidable. It took 45 different mistakes for it to happen, and at any given moment, it could have been prevented. Girigas made a nice save, and then he kind of fully just spilt the ball into the path, and then Diaz scores. I was watching it like, this is not professional football. This is not professional defense. That was very disappointing. But then for the rest of the half, for the entire second half, I was like, okay, this is the best team in the CPL.
Yeah.
And I hate that dichotomy. And it's gonna happen, right? Like, I think we were all maybe a little bit surprised with how on the same page the entire team was to start the season, that we forget that there's still chemistry issues to be worked out, especially when you rotate out key players. So I think that this is a good learning experience. Again, right? You didn't lose. You still kept a point. Cool. You're drawn level with Atletico Ottawa, I believe, for fourth place, if I'm not mistaken. You're tied on points, and you have a positive goal differential. So you take that. But in general, that second half, the changes made by Nick Rizaghi and the way the team showed up in the second half, I'm very happy about that. But I'm sick and tired of this team starting so slow, because they do it way too often, and then they have to grow into the game, and it's painful. So I need them to kind of understand and learn how to kind of pick up games from the start, and then there's no telling the kind of influence they can have over it. My top was simple, Sean Rea, obviously, but another guy that I think deserves a lot of credit is Mathis Chrétien. Again, with the ball at his feet.
Yeah. It was very interesting.
He's simply put, he's the best central defender in the CPL.
He is.
He is massive, and he is so confident with the ball. The stuff he does to either break a press or bring the ball up himself, or get the team out of a sticky situation and still maintain possession, is unfathomable. He is so good, and it's starting to become redundant, because if it's not Sean Rea, it's Mathis Chrétien. If it's not Mathis Chrétien, it's Sean Rea. And so ça tourne en rond, but it's a good problem to have, My biggest disappointment, and it breaks my heart to say this because I've loved him so far, Bakary Caboret did not have a good game. He didn't get the chance to involve himself. He didn't get the chance to influence play. Every single time that the ball went over to his side, either Louis Quimi would come over and kind of overcrowd it, or what he would try just wouldn't come off. And I'm not going to lose my mind. Sometimes you drop a stinker. Sometimes you play fantastic, whatever. It's football, right? It's professional football. That happens. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to be like, oh, sell him or bench him or whatever. No, he's still, for me, a vitally important super sub off the bench. I still think Riyad Bey and David Chouanière are the two best wingers on the team. I think that when everyone's fit and ready, they have to start together. But Bakary Caboret off the bench is fantastic, and I'm still going to, rate him incredibly highly. But yeah, not a good game. And he got subbed out at halftime. I think everyone kind of, it's kind of the consensus when you get subbed out at halftime, especially as a forward with no injuries. Wasn't your night. It happens, but I don't think anyone's gonna lose sleep. Bakary Caboret might, but I don't think any of the fans or any of the journalists or the analysts are gonna be like, oh, He's a bust.
Yeah. Look, quick thoughts on the game. I really, it was a very boring game. A game of two halves, which was a little bit worrisome in my opinion because it was too different. It was way too different. It wasn't just one position that changed. You literally, it seemed like two different teams that showed up in the two different halves. So don't like to see that because, as you mentioned, Elias, it's happened too often that the goals come late in the game or the actions come late in the game, and it's sometimes eventually it's going to become too late in general, and it's going to lead to more losses, which is not what you want. You want them to come out swinging and be the ones that really take control of the game. But the truth of the matter is that when we talk about the tops and the flop of the game, to me, I'm going to sound a little bit cheesy with the top because I know you guys mentioned players, but I do want to give a huge shout out to my top is going to be the fans in Quebec, the fans that did the traveling to Quebec City, and those that showed up even in shitty weather.
And you should be a salesman, man. You should be a salesman. Sorry.
No, but seriously, y'all see how they showed out? They showed out in Quebec City, and that was important. It's an important, especially we just talked about it, the importance of soccer, how soccer's changing in Quebec. You go to Quebec City and show out like that, and I think it was fantastic. And I think that, again, it's very hard to pick a top player in a game like this, except the most obvious, as you guys said, Sean Rea. But the flop, guys, I'm sorry, I can't pick out anybody. I can pick out individually. Keyshawn Ferdinand had a terrible game. And I don't know. But in general, it just felt like of the first half, it felt like an underprepared team. An underprepared that was confused, that didn't know what they wanted, who they, how they were supposed to play, or they seemed kind of surprised. And Pacific Pacific also had their chances that they should have been better at. But truth of the matter is, FC Super seemed surprised and underprepared the first half. And so that's my flop, because I think that comes down to, you can talk about individual players, individual player performances, but I talked about it last week. What is Nick Razagi doing to prepare these guys week after week? How prepared are they? Are they prepared at all? Or are the players kind of improvising? Or is the second half adjustment? Like, there's a lot of questions to be asked as to how these games are starting. So we'll see how it goes in the next few weeks. I think the weather also hasn't been. I think the past two games that Supra has played has been really rainy days, both Friday nights. So we'll see how it goes. And that does it. That does it for the show. Elias, if you want to close us out.
Yeah, thank you everybody for watching episode 265 of the Balls Round podcast. We're thrilled to have you. We're thrilled to close out this preview series that we've been doing. The build to the World Cup has been very long on this podcast, and we're finally here, and we can't wait for episode 266, where it'll be the first official recap of the World Cup, which is going to be equally, if not more, exciting. So again, thank you everyone for listening along the way, and the waiting is done. Time to put up or shut up. No
man,
more
time to travel, man. Time to travel. Go Canada.
Go Canada, baby.
As you guys know, and as we mentioned before, the podcast is free. The podcast will always be free. It'll always be available on, if you want to watch it, if you want to listen to it, if you want to do, either or both. I prefer both. It's available to all of you. But if you want to give a helping hand, we do have a Patreon. You want to subscribe for free, you get a bunch of cool stuff early. If you want to, just give, even a couple dollars to support, it is infinitely appreciated. And you guys are the best. So thank you again, everyone who subscribes, everyone who contributes, everyone who is just a part. Just, even if you listen once in a blue moon, you are appreciated, you are valued, you are loved. And that's it. We will see you next week for the first recap of a Canadian men's World Cup on home soil. The Bosnia
recap of the win.
Of the win. Okay. Episode 266 of the Balls Round next week. Make sure to be there, because we will be as well.
And de la locura.